Okay, folks, this is the narrated slideshow that accompanies the Marine Community Ecology course. This is just a broad overview over the course, as well as a short primer for installing and organizing your R environment. The goal of this course is to expose you to the tools that you can use to examine ecological communities using R. And this is generally an open educational resource that was developed by myself and Dr. Jordan Casey and is taught at the University of Texas at Austin Marine Science Institute. All of the materials for this course were created using open source software such as R and R Markdown, as well as several packages. All of the code was written by myself and Dr. Casey, and the photos were taken by Dr. Casey as well. You can find all of the scripts, files, and images that are necessary to complete any of the coding exercises on the GitHub page that accompanies this course. So all of the coding lessons are structured in a similar format. Essentially, it boils down to watching a pre-recorded narrated slideshow such as this one at home before the next lesson. And those slideshows will introduce you to the packages, functions, and objectives of each section in the coding lessons. During those recorded slideshows, there'll usually be a couple of small exercises as well as the solutions right after them. After that, you're asked to perform a set of relatively easy exercises at home, which are submitted as homework. And we will then go through the solutions to these in class. And then on top of that, when we're working in class together, you will work through a set of harder exercises. And you will do that in small groups and with your instructors to solve the problems and hopefully deepen your coding skills. Okay, first steps. If you are already proficient in opening R, you've worked with it before and you have no problems with that, you can skip the next few slides. But if you've never opened or installed R, then this is a good place to start. So depending on whether you have a Windows or a Mac computer, you need to download the newest version of R to your computer. And just as an FYI, this presentation is available just as the slide, so not the narrated version. And in that slideshow, you will actually be able to click these links right here that will take you directly to the downloading interface for R. And then the second part is optional. I strongly recommend it, but I would definitely download R Studio to your computer. So R Studio is just essentially a shell that R operates in that provides you with multiple panes that you can work in, as well as a more comprehensive GUI. And as I said, you don't have to use that, but I would definitely recommend it. Once you've installed both R and R Studio, you can open R Studio. And when you do that, there's no need to open R separately. So R Studio automatically interfaces with R. As I said, it's just sort of a pretty shell around the actual program R. So it comes right out of the box like that. And these right here, these are just some screenshots that I've taken of my own R Studio environment. It may look slightly different for you. There are different color options and preferences that you can set as you see fit. And just to orient you a little bit, here up in the top left corner in my R Studio is the actual scripting pane. So this is where I usually write my code. Down here is the console. So this is the actual R environment that runs and executes the different commands. Up here is what's called an environment. There are several other tabs right here that may fill up as you get deeper into coding. And down here, there's a pane that has sort of all the ancillary features such as plots, different packages, a help page, as well as some files that are in your R environment. So very handy sort of little organization. When you are in your RStudio, what you'll want to do is hit File and then create a new project. A project is essentially an umbrella for all of your work in R. It's the easiest way to keep track of all your different scripts and data files and plots. It will essentially just act as a box that you can put everything in. So I strongly recommend using projects. When you create your new project, you will select a new directory, which essentially just hosts your project on your local machine. There are options later on if you're working with GitHub, for example, a version control interface. You can select this and clone a project into your local machine from a GitHub repository. But for now, we're just going to stick with this new directory option right here. Again, we're going to choose new project. There are different options here, such as R packages or Shiny applications. We don't have to worry about any of these. We're just going to create a new project. And then you can name your project. For this course, which is called Marine Community Ecology, I strongly recommend a name that suggests as much, such as Marine Community Ecology. And you can also select the directory that you want to save your project in at this step. So you can see right here, this is Documents Teaching Marine Community Ecology. Select this one on your computer as you see fit. I would again recommend sort of having a master folder where you keep all your R projects. That's generally a good practice because it means you can find them easily. Once you've done that, you will actually see some changes in your R environment. So up here, this is the indicator of the project that you're currently in. So you'll actually see that this now will have switched to whatever you named your project. In our case, this is Marine Community Ecology. And you will also see that this flipped to the Files tab right here. And you can see that there's a file in your environment that is called Marine Community Ecology.rproj, which stands for R project. So your R project is in fact a proper file on your computer, but again, as I mentioned earlier, is just a box that everything sits in that you will create later on. Now we can create a new R script. So an R script is essentially a text editor. It's nothing fancy. It's a text editor that allows you to write and save your code rather than sending each command by itself and then having R forget everything about it. So R scripts are a very nice way of writing, editing, and saving code. So you just go to new file, go to R script. You're again still in your same R project. And what happens now is that you have a new R script right here, such as R introduction, whatever you named it. You can save it under whichever name you want. It usually pops up as untitled, and when you save it, you can change the name. And you also see that down here, there is now an R script that just has the extension .r in your environment. So this is associated with your project right here. Now, with that script, you can write a first line of code, and we're going to keep it very simple here. We're going to write get WD, which stands for get your working directory, and then an opened and closed parenthesis. And once you've written that line of code, you can either hit run right here, which will basically transfer this line of code from up here to down there into the actual R console. So run, you can click run to do that. Or if you're on a Mac, you can hit command return. That'll do the same thing. It just shoots it down. And on a Windows computer, I think it's control and enter. I haven't worked on a Windows machine in at least a decade. So that, make sure that is actually the case. And what that function does, the getWD function, it just gives you your current working directory. So just the location on your local machine that everything is saved under. So you can try that and make sure that looks kosher. It should be exactly where you created your project earlier. Should be that exact same working directory. And now what you can do is you can actually navigate on your computer to that directory, and you should find Marine Community Ecology there, and you should find the R project and the R script in this particular directory. Now what you can do is you can actually just work in your Finder or in your Windows folder. You can create new objects and move them into this R project as well. So for example, you can create a folder that's called data and just place it in there. That's really handy because every data set that you'll need for your coding exercise can be moved into that data folder later on, and then you always know that you're going to have that one in the right directory. You could also, for example, create a folder called plots in which you can then store all of the plots that you're going to make down the road. But for now, just know that all of this work that we just did in R basically directly translated to creating new files and a new project on your local hard drive in the directory that you specified. And if you've done all that without having a nervous breakdown, you've mastered the first step, which was simply to install and mildly organize your R environment. The next set of slides will be an introduction to R, so that'll cover all of the basics of different objects in R and how we can manipulate them. And I'll leave it with that. Any questions you have can be directed towards me in class. Thank you.